right, my friends, welcome back to the Comeback Journey podcast. Here with me is Rafael. We met pretty recently on Instagram, and he and I connected about a week ago, and it turned into an hour and a half long conversation. And he's a really cool guy. I'm very excited to have him on here. So we'll go ahead and introduce him. Rafael, how you doing today?
Nick, thanks for having me on the show, man. I'm doing awesome. Always doing awesome, actually. But yeah, I think that our quick introduction has been pretty cool and let us hear. So I'm super excited about it, man.
Yeah. It's I told one of my buddies what you told me about how the years I went through, like struggling, I guess you could call it, was like
Yeah, that was
transition
your
my frame of mind to calling that my training for where I'm at
right.
now.
Yeah.
And
What do you think about that?
it really stuck with me, man. I've been putting a lot of thought into that, and it makes a lot of sense.
It really does. I have an individual that I'm friends with, and he's in a similar path as you, and I almost had the exact same conversation with him, and it's just a reality. I think if you understand what your challenges are and what you're going through, and that's kind of what gets you from point A to point B, is you've got to have some life experience, and once you get that under your belt and you realize that that's what it is, it changes the game for you
Yeah,
completely.
100%.
Well, that's awesome, man. That makes me feel really, really humbled that stuck with you and has resonated with you. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. So let's bring it back a little bit. So where did you grow up?
So I'm originally from Northern California. I was born in Napa Valley. And when I was born in Napa Valley, it is not the Napa Valley that a lot of people know today. It was a farming community. And that's where I spent my childhood years. I lived there until it was about 10. And then my mother moved us to San Diego. And I lived in San Diego for a few years. I want to say that was like fifth and sixth grade. Seventh grade, maybe. No, not seventh grade, fifth and sixth grade. Then we moved back to Napa. And then my mom remarried when I was 13. And so then from there, we moved to Dallas, which was a massive transition for me. It was totally nuts. And then I lived there for a year, and then I moved back to San Diego to play soccer. And that's spent my adolescent years. And then when I was 17, I moved to South Florida, which is where I'm currently living. And I moved to South Florida with the intent of playing professional soccer, and it didn't work out. And injury killed that career. And I've been here ever since. So I moved here in 1991, and I love it here. It's a great place to live. There's a lot of freedom. You've got a different country and 20 minutes away by plane, and 45 by boat. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool place to live. I can't complain. Other than the summer heat, that's really messing with my tan. But other than that, it's pretty good, man.
That's funny. I was born in 1991.
Oh man, you're killing me. You're killing me. It's a
Uh,
good year, man. It's a good year. Trust me. I
yeah.
have some fond memories of 91. Trust me. So
So you said you were, what, 13 when your mom remarried?
Yep. So my birth father, and I'll give you a little insight on all that. But my birth father was not a very good individual. He wasn't prepared to be a good father, and that's okay. I mean, not everybody is. So he was kind of in and out, for the first couple of years, I guess. I mean, I don't remember necessarily what it was like when I was 2, 3, or 4. I do kind of remember when I was 5 and 6. Those are some good times for me. I do remember those times, some moments in that period of my life. And so he was kind of in and out, and he was pretty much non-existent by the time I was about 7. And what's crazy is that he didn't live very far from us. He just would avoid us like the plague. So, and I kind of figured that was just how things were. I mean, it didn't. At that age, it's really hard for a child to understand what's going on, and certainly doesn't have the mental capacity or life experience to know what a 30 or 40-year-old's going through, or let alone a 20-year-old, right?
Mhm.
So it was just kind of how things were. We had a pretty close family, had a lot of aunts and uncles around, and a lot of cousins. And we just kind of grew up that way. It was just the way things were. And hell, I didn't even know I was poor until I was about 25. So um, that was a big nut to figure out. That was an interesting what is it called? Not an aberration, but an interesting insight at that moment when I was like, holy cow, I was poor growing up. So,
Yeah, you know, I
but yeah,
think
so
I was gonna say, you know, I think parents a lot of times they don't want to show their kids that. You know, they want to present that everything is okay.
yeah, and I'm a parent. I've got a teenage daughter, and we've worked really, really hard at uh, for her to have a value to income. Understand how hard it is to make a dollar, and have true value for that and hard work. And so you're right, but a lot of parents will shield their kids and not really show them the hard times, even though the hard times are a lot of the time is what makes you as a human being, right? It creates who you are and molds you and shapes you. I mean, you're certainly a great example of that, where, you're a completely different person today than you were a year ago or even 5 years ago. So I think it's important. I think it's important that you have good communication with your kids. There's so much information today. It's so easy for them to get information that it's really hard to keep things from them today. And so, it's maybe not like when I was growing up, there was no social media. You didn't have Instagram. You didn't have Facebook. There certainly wasn't Zoom, right? So,
Hold on one second. We're gonna have to cut that part out.
yeah, well,
The home phone line.
That's the beauty of editing. I can't believe you still got a home phone, man. That was crazy.
I know.
So where was I? So yeah, I think that, exposing your kids to a little bit more reality today, it's almost unavoidable for parents today. There's so much of it, and it's so easy for them to see information, and that's just worldwide. So you don't really have much choice today when it comes to parenting, I don't think. That's just the way we choose to do it. I mean, everyone can parent their own way, obviously, but we choose to make sure that our kid's well informed and understands, how the world works, and that everything is not easy, and then nothing's going to get handed to you. So, and that's really, when I think back to my childhood, I was recently asked, and a little bit about this as well from our previous conversations, that I have a particular mindset, and my mindset is very positive, and I'm always striving for better. But I kind of figured out that I was about 9 years old when I kind of figured out that this is how the world works, and I know what I have to do to succeed in the world. And it was pretty interesting for me to come to that revelation as well, because I never really thought about it. I never really said, when did I figure out that this is what I was going to do and how I was going to do it, regardless of what it was in front of me? And when did that all kind of fall into place for me? And looking back, I was about 9 years old when I got my first job. So I figured it out at that point.
You were 9 when you got your first job.
Yeah, I got a paper route.
Okay.
So I went down and went down to the local newspaper. And, it was, again, remember, I grew up I didn't know I was poor, but I grew up pretty poor. And, went down there and said, I need a job. And the guy says, well, you need a bike. And I said, well, I'll be right back. And went and got me a bike and came back. I'm like, all right, I got a bike. He's like, you got a job. So there you go. So, but that taught me a lot about managing money pretty quick, because back then you had to collect from every customer. And so you had to have a little receipt book, and you had to fill it all out. You had to, make sure that you delivered the papers on the right days on the certain houses. And so I don't think it's much different than the way they deliver papers today. But back then you had kids doing it, and it was just, you wrapped the bags around your handlebars on your bike. You stuffed as many papers as you could. You got up at 4:00 in the morning and you rode around and just threw papers all day. So, and that's just the way it was. So, but it was cool. I made enough money to buy tacos on the weekend, and that was pretty cool with my brother. So,
That's a good way to spend the money, buying tacos.
Absolutely, man. You got to eat,
So when when you moved to Dallas, you said it was a big change for you. Was that just because like living in a different state and it was like a little bit of a culture shock?
Northern California. Just different environment entirely. But the biggest change for me, and I didn't really understand it at the time, was that my mother remarried, and so the gentleman that she married had done very well for himself financially, and it was just a completely different ballgame for us. I went from having to throw 100 papers or 150 newspapers a week to make $25, right, to go and spend buy dollar tacos on a Saturday night at the local taco truck, to getting $10-15 a day for lunch every day. And it was like, where's this money coming from? And it wasn't so much that I felt like the money was coming from a bad place. It just was like, wait a minute, it was like, growing up, we'd go school shopping, we'd go to Salvation Army. Moved to Dallas, we're shopping at Macy's, Dillard's, Nordstrom's, Saks. And it's like, all of a sudden you're spending $1,500 per kid on clothes for school. And I'm like, I've never even seen $1,500. So it was a very, very difficult transition for me in the sense that I didn't know what to do with the money other than save it. So I would take that lunch money and I'd put it away and put it away and put it away. And I wouldn't eat lunch because I never ate lunch before. So it was not that big of a deal. But I didn't, you had it, never had it before, didn't know what to do with it. Certainly wasn't going to just go blow it on freaking potato chips and soda pop. That was not going to happen. So it was a bit of a culture shock, and it was just really different. You went from having one bike in your household to everybody having a bike, or, somebody wanted a guitar, you got a guitar. If somebody wanted a trumpet, you went and got a trumpet. If you wanted new shoes, just because your buddy had new shoes, you went and got the new shoes. And so it was really, really weird for me. But, I settled in, and then culturally, it was just a really hard place for me. I moved there in 86, 87. And at that time, it was pretty much predominantly, it was probably 75% Anglo-American, probably 20% African-American, and then the remainder were Latino. And my stepfather, who I consider my father, 1,000,000% without a single doubt in my mind or my heart, is an Anglo-American. And we lived in a very, very, I was the only, all of my brothers are much lighter skinned than I am. So I was the only brown kid in the entire neighborhood. And that was challenging because it was just different. I didn't get treated poorly. From the occasional bully, which, when you grow up in Northern California in a farming community, you tend to learn how to defend yourself pretty quick. That was not a big deal for me, but it happened. Certainly didn't cause me any negative hardship or disgruntled feelings or emotionally. And so it was just really different. I went from wearing, beat up shoes and used pants to brand new sneakers, and all the kids are wearing $400 or $500 cowboy boots to school. It was just weird. It was just different. And it was just a big cultural difference for me. But I settled in pretty good. I made some good friends in Dallas. I still have some very close friends that I made in middle school in Dallas, which was pretty cool. And my parents lived there for a long time. And so we'd travel back quite a bit. And so I kept all those relationships. But, I lived there for one full school year and a summer. And then I moved to San Diego from there, which when I moved to San Diego, I fit in so much better. It was a much better place for me just because of the culture and the people and just how people thought. It was much more, we'll call it California, right? It was very California versus very Texas. They're completely different places. So yeah, that's kind of my middle ground there. High school was really fun for me. I had a great time in high school. I was an athlete, so I played. It was back then, if you were a top athlete, you pretty much had free reign. And so you did that and made a lot of good friends. Still have a lot of friends in San Diego. Grew up there. And I feel like that's when I really grew up. It's kind of when I came into my own and really found myself like, maybe who I wanted to be or what I was going to be. And so my high school years were really good for me. So.
That's good. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of like varied opinions about high school. My high school experience was pretty good overall.
Hmm.
I had a pretty small core group of friends, and um, I didn't I didn't play any team sports. I
Hmm.
got big into skateboarding. I tried out for the
Yep.
basketball team, and I made the freshman team, but not the JV team. And I
Uh
said, I'm not playing JV, then I'm not going to play.
huh.
And so I didn't play, and then I never tried out again. But
You could have been the next Michael Jordan, man.
I
You
know.
could have been. No.
uh, yeah, overall, it was a good experience. There's obviously like everyone has some tough times in high school, but overall, it was good. And I think I currently live in San Diego, and it's an amazing place.
Yep. I
I
totally
think
agree.
sometimes I don't fully appreciate it because I'm been here, pretty much my whole life. But there are those moments where I'm just is this real? Like, this is
Yeah.
like the most amazing place,
Yeah. It's special there. There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt about it being special. So, I thinking back and, hindsight being 2020, right? And this is kind of where, you know, this is kind of the big reason why I wanted to start Ground Zero is that you can't teach, you can't earn wisdom without going through it, right? You can get an education and you can get insight. And that's why I'm so involved in mentoring. I think mentoring is so important because you can take younger people and share your experience so that when it happens to them, they've got some insight as to a particular outcome, right? Because my outcome is going to be a lot different than maybe your outcome in a very similar situation, right? Um, and that's the one thing you can't get, right? You can't get life experience until you live. So I think high school, when you look back, high school is really that first time in your life where all young people get the opportunity to go find their tribe, quote unquote, their tribe or their group. And sometimes people look at it, I think they look at it negatively a lot of times where, oh, my kid's not in that clique. Well, it's not for your kid. It's for those kids. Those kids fit in over there. Those kids fit with that group. And it doesn't mean that those kids can't be kind to each other, right? Because you still get that, well, somebody just dying to be in that group and that group just doesn't want to accept them. That's real life. That's the real world. It happens, right? You go work in a corporate environment where there's 500 employees in the company and there's 25 floors. Not everybody in that building is going to like you. The difference is that at 15, 16, or 14, or 13, or even 17 or 18, you don't have enough self-confidence, enough self-respect for yourself to demand respect from those people, even though they don't like you, right? And respect, if you read it by definition, respect is your admiration for someone's accomplishments and achievements. It has nothing to do with their personal human being or who they are as a human or what their moral compass is. So I think a lot of people get respect twisted in the sense that, oh, that person doesn't respect me, so therefore I'm not going to like them. It has nothing to do with that. You're looking at that word completely different. I think that's just in general, right? It's an easy response. It's like, people don't like their job because they're not getting paid enough. That it's an easy response. It's a quick go-to. And for people, it's the same thing. If you have to be so confident with yourself and believe in who you are and what you stand for, that aura alone will demand respect from people. And I think that's something that you learn early on at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And people just get it confused with respect versus humanity. Humanity is me caring for you as a human being because you exist. I owe you that. The fact that you are alive today, I owe you kindness, compassion, care, and admiration because you live. I owe you respect because of your accomplishments. But I can only give that to you if I can give it to myself. And I think that's where you first learn how to do that. It's in high school. I think that's the first time because in middle school, kind of everyone's still friends, right? Everybody kind of still hangs out, and puberty hits and kids start changing and kids get taller and kids get wider and kids get, I broke out like a maniac in middle school, but, kids break out and, girls start to develop and all of a sudden everything starts to change. But it's always that 8th grade summer when the kids come back and it's like, whoa, did you see so-and-so? Have you seen so-and-so? And I think that's the first time that young people really start to be able to build their tribes and their communities and their groups and learn how to coexist with other people. Elementary, everybody plays with everybody. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares, right? Kindergarten, nobody cares, And so I think that middle school, high school years are when people start to develop those things. And they also start to develop bad habits at that time. And they start to be influenced by other people. And sometimes it's negative. But I think that's the first time you get exposed to that. So I don't know if you look back and people, you hear people say, I had a bad high school experience. And I don't know. I think they're just looking at it from the wrong angle. I think they're just looking at it from the wrong angle. That's it. I don't think anybody has a bad experience. I'm not saying something horrible doesn't happen to people. I'm not saying that. Just if you look at it from a different perspective, I think you'll find a lot more meaning and have a lot more understanding for what that first half of your life means to you. A lot like we talked about in our last conversation about you and, your struggles. But the reality is that was the proving ground, right? That was the learning ground. That's where you were at, you've been at this now for 24 months we talked about, right?
For sobriety?
Yep. Sobriety and working on your new stuff and working on your coaching and your mentoring and,
Yeah, I've been sober a little over 3 years, but I've been I started this podcast late last summer.
Okay. So 3 years ago was your ground zero, right?
Yeah.
That's where you started. That was your starting point where you could now take everything that you've learned, that whole life experience, and start to apply it. So I think high school is that first time where you get that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's definitely, and this is what I said earlier, like I think everybody will look back and think they may have like some negative associations with high school, but you're right, it's a perspective thing. If you look at it from the perspective of I learned a lot, not just from books and classes, but like from my experiences and my interactions with people. And it really helped me develop into the person I am today. In that way, there is no negative.
Absolutely. There's either wins or learning opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. So you're either winning at whatever it is you're doing or you're learning. And if you have a positive mindset and you're consistently trying to get better, you'll always be learning, regardless if it's a win or a learning opportunity. When you start thinking of it that you're taking a loss or you're failing, then you start to let that negative vibe in, and that's where people get stagnant. That's where people get held up. That's where people start to let it creep in, and that self-doubt starts to come in, and all of a sudden well, I'm not as pretty, or I'm not as handsome, or my pecs aren't as good as I want them to be, or I've got really skinny arms, or my calves are bad, or or I've got social anxiety. And you start letting those things creep in, and listen, man, let's face it, that shit will take over quick, and you can't allow that. As a human who's trying to be better and be the person you're trying to be, you cannot allow that to creep in. You have to nip that in the bud. You got to cut it from the root. You got to pour poison on it, pesticide, whatever you got to do to kill it. You need to kill it quick. So I think that just comes from being empowered. I think it comes from believing in who you are and knowing your worth.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Vee says something very similar where he's like, everyone in high school is so worried about going to school with a zit, and everybody's got their own zit to worry about.
Yeah.
So like, you didn't pay any attention to yours.
Exactly. And you know what? That's no different when you're 20, 30, 40, or 50. It's no different. Everyone else who is in your, let's say, quote unquote class, okay, whether it's age, whether it's financial, whether it's status, however you want to look at it, you're all facing the same problems. like I have a little saying on my block. I've got a great neighborhood. We got great neighbors, and we have a little saying that, you know, somebody will get into their ego a little bit and be like, "Oh, I bought this," and I'm always replying to them, "We live on the same street, my friend. We live on the exact same street. In fact, if I go Zillow your house and Zillow my house, they're within a couple of $1,000s of each other." So, you know, and they kind of bring everybody down to a reality that, you know, look, shiny things are nice, man. Everybody likes them. I mean, you know, like I love my truck, you know, but it doesn't define me. And people let material things define them because they lack that self-security. They lack that self-confidence. And so when you can work on those things, and those are the real things, those are the real things that matter, right? What really matters is how you see yourself every day and how you carry yourself and your level of confidence and your level of self-respect. Those are the things that matter. And when those things matter, everything else just kind of falls into place, because you'll be more accepting of the way the world really is and the reality that you've created for yourself, because you'll get that, right? Oh, in my head, my reality is ABC, but currently I'm living DEF. No, you're living DEF because that is the reality you created for yourself. You are where you are today because you're supposed to be there, but you put yourself there based on your choices and all of your experience that you've put behind you. So having goals and aspirations are phenomenal. I think everybody should. But having those goals and aspirations and understanding the process, because that's what's important about gains and wins and access and status and bigger bank account. It's the process that gets you there. And you've got to understand the process. That's a big deal for a lot of people. They don't understand the process.
Yeah, you know, I was just talking to a friend of mine, and you know, it's he had posted something on Instagram about, you know, if somebody's building a business, and it doesn't go well, they're going to blame the market or their customers or the president or the laws or whatever it is. But ultimately it's on the person who's,
Absolutely.
you know, and the example he used was like, if you're like in NASCAR and you're driving and your car crashes or you don't come in first place, so you're going to blame the car or you're going to blame the driver.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the driver, you know, and that's, I think a lot of people should adopt that mentality for life in general. Like, you are able to create whatever you want. But you have to accept absolute responsibility.
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm a huge proponent for positive accountability. I do work full time, so I'm very team orientated. And interesting enough, I had a conversation with one of my team members today. I felt like he was making some decisions with not having all the details and all the information. And I finally kind of figured it out with him. And I said, look, here's the reality. As much as you want to make your customers happy, and as much as you want to be loyal to them and have loyalty from them, they really don't care about you. That's the flat out reality. We're a business. They're here to buy a product. They expect you to deliver the product, and they want to pay a fair price for that product. But if somebody else can give them the same product for a better price and give them as good or better customer service, they're going to be gone. So when you make decisions in business, you need to make decisions based on the facts and the potential outcomes that you're trying to create. When you make decisions in your personal life, you need to make them kind of the same way. And too many times people make those decisions based on an emotion. And then when it doesn't go right, exactly what you just said happens. Oh, I wasn't successful because the restaurant across the street opened up a month before I did, and they took all of my clientele. Or a tire blew out in a NASCAR race and I ran into the wall, and so I finished dead last. Well, the reality is you got to take responsibility and be positive about it. If you're a team environment and you're working in a group environment, then you have to make the entire group one unit, one cohesive unit, where everybody makes sure they lift up everybody else. And that when you win and you have success, it's everybody. When you have learning opportunities, because there's no failures, remember, when you have learning opportunities and you have things not go exactly the way that you wanted them to go, then you take those as that opportunity to learn and grow and get better, and take that experience so that the next time a similar situation comes along, you have some basis to go back to either make a different decision or make the same decision. Just don't expect a different outcome if you make the same decision. But you know what I mean? And so team is very, very big in that work environment. But you're right. When people go out on their own and they're doing stuff and they're building a business and things don't go right, that negative thing creeps in again, that judgment, that self-doubt, the confidence level starts to drop, and it kills people. It destroys them before they even get started. And I think a lot of that just comes back to those basic concepts is, can you look in the mirror every day and think that is the baddest person on the face of the planet in a good way? Are you special? When you look in the mirror, do you think to yourself, man, I can't wait to see what I do today? Because I do. I wake up every morning and I think to myself, okay, what can I do today that's going to be magical? What am I going to do today that is going to impact somebody's life in a positive way? And maybe I've changed their world, or maybe they look at me and go, wow, that guy's a complete moron. Either way, I'm providing some kind of impact, right? And so if more people would wake up that way, they'd have a lot more compassion and understanding for others, because they'd have such a deeper understanding and compassion for themselves. I think people don't love themselves enough.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. A lot of people just constantly seek that outside validation and thinking that like something else will complete them or make them feel whole or give them some sense of satisfaction. And the reality is all of that can be found internally. It's already there. You just have to uncover it.
Yeah. I mean, you're built to win, from the moment you're born, from the moment that you get pushed from the womb, right? Because we're all born from the same place. None of us would be here without women, by the way. So, right. No argument there. But, from the moment you're put out into the world, I mean, you're born to win. Nobody grabs a baby and says, oh, this baby is going to be a loser. Nobody does that, right? No one does that, because it's not the reality. The reality is that you've heard all the stories. Dads will pick up their kid. Oh, this is going to be the next NFL star. This is going to be the next NBA star. This is going to be the next MLB star, or hockey or NASCAR or tennis, whatever. They pick up their boy, they pick up their daughter, and all they have is nothing but positive thoughts of the grandiose things that your children are going to do. Nobody picks up their kids and, this baby's born a loser. No one does that. So you're born to win, man. And somewhere along the line, and it goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, is I think that somewhere between middle school and high school is when the judgment starts to come in, and young people start to judge others. And as a young person, you're not mentally, most young people, most adolescents are not prepared mentally to deal with judgment. And then that translates into adulthood. And that's how you have an adult who lacks confidence and maybe, falls into addiction or falls into some behavior that is looking for, redemption or gratification, because they're not finding it other places, because they're so used to being judged and they can't get over that hump, and it comes along somewhere there. And that's the part where I think people like you and people like me doing what we're doing, that is the one thing. If you can get someone to get over that, you would be amazed at what people can accomplish. It's unbelievable. And that's where, for me, that's kind of where I get that high, right? Where I feel really good about what's about to happen for that person. Not so much what's about to happen to me. I know where I'm at. I'm very secure and confident in who I am and what I am today. Not so much for me, but it's super exciting to watch what somebody else is going to do, because there's a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter than I am, have a lot more talent than I do, for sure, damn much better looking than I am. So, it's really cool. That's the part that for me is the biggest driver as to why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
That's
Just
incredible.
just to watch people grow, man. It's really freaking cool,
So let's transition here a little bit. So I want to touch back on when you moved to Florida to play professional soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to get into like what you do now.
Okay. Yeah. So, I moved here in 91 to South Florida, got hurt pretty quick. So I never played a pro game. And, my parents were living here at the time. My dad was a president of a company here in South Florida. And it was pretty cool in the sense that my parents were supportive, but my mom's always been really hard on me because she knows that I will get very anxious and I'm not one to sit still. And I need to keep evolving. I need to keep changing. I need to keep growing. I need to keep moving. Right. And so, immediately it was, okay, if you're not going to play anymore, you're going to do this and you're going to go to school. Okay, no problem. So off to school I went. I went to junior college here in South Florida and hated every day of it, every minute of it. I'm not a big reader. I don't like to read. I love watching people and studying people and learning from people's experiences. And I can do Audible, but if you ask me to read a book, it's very, very challenging for me. Not my best attribute, right? So I got through that. I didn't want to go to a 4-year. I didn't want to keep going. So my parents were like, okay, no problem. You do you, but you got to get a job. And so I started working. I got into sales. It seemed like it was a good fit, and it has been a good fit for me. And got into sales and worked for a very, very good company. And unfortunately, I wasn't mature enough to handle the corporate environment at that time. Otherwise, I'd probably still be working there today, in the sense that it probably had, most people have a top 10 for work, and you're lucky if you can get 5 or 6 of them. You're ridiculously blessed if you can get 7 or 8. And I don't think I know anyone that's ever gotten all 10.
What do you mean by 10?
So you have a list, right? You've got, I want a good paycheck. I want,
Okay.
I want steady income. I want a cohesive work environment. I want to work, only 8 to 10 hours a day, not 15 to 20. I want to work for a company that's reputable and maybe a philanthropic company, things of that nature. Whatever your top 10 lists are, when you're looking for work and you're looking for a company to go work for, I think it's important for people to have that list and know that it kind of triggers that whole grass is greener on the other side thing, because you may have 6 of 10 today, but you think the grass is green on the other side, and you go to that company and you may only end up with 6 of 10. They might be a different 6 of 10, right? But you're still going to end up with 6 out of 10. Maybe it's 7 out of 10, but you might lose one that you had in the other place. And so, the grass is always greener where you water it. And I did not make that up. It's been around forever, right? But, and so for me, it was a really good company. Just didn't realize it. Wasn't mature enough to deal with it. Wasn't mature enough to see the opportunities that I had there. But I got through it. I did pretty well. I grew a lot there. And then I was recruited from another company, and I went to that company and, worked there for a little while. And then so during that period of time, when I was in college, I was going to school to be a school teacher. That was my intent. And in the first few months, I realized I was not going to be a school teacher, that I was not going to put myself in that position for that income, which just wasn't going to work for me at the time. So it was a decision that I made. But during that time, I had to take a class on how to teach golf as an elective for like a high school PE coach, right? Well, I'm left-handed. So as you can imagine, in the early 90s in college, there weren't a lot of left-handed golfers out there. So accessibility for clubs was very difficult. And I had kind of a little bit of a cocky attitude. And so I got into a conversation with the instructor, and she was an ex-LPGA tour player. And she says, I'll tell you what, if you can learn to hit a draw, a fade, and a relatively straight ball by the end of this class, I'll give you an A. You won't have to do any of the work. And in fact, you don't even have to come to class. Just show up on the last day. And if you can do that, I'll give you an A. So you're talking to an athlete now. So I said, you got yourself a deal. So she handed me a 5-iron, an old Ben Hogan Blade 5-iron. And if anybody knows anything about golf, not the easiest club to hit if you don't know what you're doing. And so I went to the driving range pretty much like 2 or 3 days a week for that entire semester. And I just figured it out. And I show up to class on the last day and hit a nice little draw, hit a nice little fade, and somewhat relatively straight ball. And she was like, you got an A. I'm like, nice to meet you. But I fell in love with the game. And so I played a lot while I was working, and in sales, that helped me out quite a bit. And you spend a lot of time. It's the only environment you're going to get 4 or 5 hours of someone's attention, unprohibited. So played a lot. So after I get recruited from this company, the company gets bought out about 18 months after I'm there. It's a month before my wedding. Get laid off. I'm like, shit, what'd I do? Go home. Wife's like, yeah, it is what it is, man. We'll figure it out, and we'll just keep hustling, keep moving. So we extended our honeymoon a little bit and went out there and did our thing, and then got back. And like I said earlier, I'm not one to sit still. And so when I was in college, I'd waited tables. So I went back to waiting tables and just to keep moving, keep doing something. And a buddy of mine says, hey, come work at the golf club. And I said, well, what am I going to do at the golf club? He says, just play golf all day, play with the members, hang out, practice, do your thing. And so I did, and I got really good really quick. And so I came home one day and tell my wife, my new wife, I'm going to be a professional golfer. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, I think I'm good enough to play on the PGA Tour. So I'm going to give it a shot. And she says, I'll give you 5 years of uninhibited, unencumbered, full support. Go do your thing. And so I went at it, Yeah, my wife's pretty awesome, dude. We've been together since 1995, and it's been a really, really cool ride. So I did that for 5 straight years, and I got pretty good, and I played, and I won a couple tournaments here and there, and was making a little bit of money. And in that period of time, my daughter was born, and I missed some things at home, which hurt way more than not playing on the tour. And so after 5 years, I gave it up. I said, I'm just not good enough to play with those guys every single weekend on TV for $5 or $6 million a week. But the good thing is I can sleep at night, and I've never looked back at missing competition, missing the game. I still play with my friends. It's much more enjoyable for me today. I'm not trying to pay a light bill or pay the mortgage with it. So it's a much easier game when you're not having that pressure. So that happened. And through that whole transition is how I ended up in the business that I am today, which is the marine business. And just met a guy, and he had a company, and we just got to talking, and he had made me an offer one day and said, hey, if this doesn't work out for you, give me a call, give you a job. And that's what he did. And I started at an entry-level position, and that was 17 years ago now. And so today I run one of, if not the largest marine segment for Caterpillar in the world. I manage a team. Yeah, I'm super blessed, man. I'm lucky. Look, I work hard. I put the effort in. I do what's necessary to try to be successful. But all in all, I'm doing pretty good for a little Mexican kid from a farming town in Northern California.
Yeah. I mean, it's admirable that, I guess not admirable. It's an inspirational story to see how, you moved across the country to be a pro soccer player, and then you got injured, and you were like, well, there's a lot of people that they want to be pro athletes, and then they get injured, and then they think their life is over,
Yep.
And then, you try out a couple other things, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to be a pro golfer. And then that doesn't work out, but you keep pushing, and you keep pushing, and you keep reaching for things that other people may consider like too far away to get. And yet here you are.
Yeah. And I think that, we touched on it a little bit earlier, people get crushed. Sometimes people fail before they even try,
Mm.
and if you don't try, I can guarantee you that 100% the answer will be no. But if you do try, the outcome is undetermined, but the effort is up to you.
Mm.
Look, there's a reality out there. You just may not be good enough, right? That is a reality. And you may not be built to be the CEO of ExxonMobil. And you may not be built to be the number one player in the world in any sport. But if you don't try, there is no doubt about it in anyone's mind, it will never happen. So people's fear of success and people's fear of failure are the two things that will destroy anyone's dream before they even give it a shot. And that's one thing that I'm very thankful to myself for pretty much daily, is that I have never been afraid to try something, period. I have never been afraid I'm going to go do a startup. I'm going to go do this. I have never been afraid to do it, regardless of what the challenges may be, regardless of what the financial situation it may put me in, regardless of what, emotional stress it may bring on me. I've never been afraid to do it. And I think if I would have been afraid, I certainly wouldn't be here in the position that I'm in. I have no doubt about that. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges for most people. Sometimes people struggle with, in similar situations, they struggle with addiction, and they struggle with mental issues or mental health issues. And a lot of times it's self-inflicted, right? They're just sometimes people are just afraid to be special. And I think that every time someone's born, it's special. It really is. It kind of goes back. Nobody grabs their newborn child and says, "Oh, this kid's not special." It just doesn't happen. So if you could remember the first words that your parents told you when you came out of the womb, what would they be? They'd be, "Oh my God, this baby's unbelievable. This baby's beautiful. This is my world. This kid's going to be amazing. This kid's going to do something special. This child is going to change the world somehow." Just imagine if that was their first memory, how people's confidence would be in such a different place. And so how do you get back to that? How do you get that 25-year-old who's struggling? How do you get the 35-year-old who's struggling? How do you get the 65-year-old who's struggling, who has all this talent, all this ability? They're just this pented up amazingness. I don't even know if that's really a right term, but whatever. This greatness within them. How do you get that person to say, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. I am great. I am special. I am amazing." And it's just that switch, man. I've made a post. I put a post that the switch is located right here. This is the switch to your life. It's right there. You control it. You own it. You define it. You determine when to turn it on and off. It's your choice. And just sometimes people are just afraid to be freaking awesome. I don't get that. I want to be awesome every day,
Yeah. I like when I was a kid, I felt different. I always felt different, but all I wanted to do was fit in and be like everybody else,
Yeah.
And so I, over time, just suppressed my uniqueness, and
Mm-hmm.
I hid it because I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be like everybody else. And,
Yeah.
Over the last, I would say, 2 years, probably,
Mm-hmm.
I've started uncovering that.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah, but
amazing,
don't you feel so much better like embracing your difference? I
100%.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I want to be different too. I want to be Rafael Betts. That's it. It's the only person I want to be. I don't want to be anybody else. I just want to be me. And I want to watch myself and all the cells within my body change and evolve. I want to pay attention to my mind as it evolves and as it grows, and as it changes, and how I come up with these ridiculously crazy ideas sometimes, and then I bounce them off of somebody, and they're like, "Man, you're freaking nuts, dude. Are you crazy? That's not going to work." I think it can work. I think we can make this work. And then all of a sudden you come up with this plan, and all the energy and all the compassion and all the inspiration you have to make these things happen and work. And you know what? You can't do it by yourself. You got to have a team around you. You got to have people around you that believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. But they won't believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. If you can't look in the mirror and think that's a bad dude or a bad chick, if you can't do that, people aren't going to do it for you. They're not going to look at you and say, "Man, Nick's badass. Nick is the shit." They're not going to do that if Nick doesn't believe it. You're going to get, "Man, Nick has so much potential. Oh, Nick could be great. Oh, Nick could probably do something special if he really applied himself." Man, screw that shit. Go out there and do it. Go out there and be freaking amazing. Go out there and just do something special every day, regardless of what it is. It might be you smiling at somebody who's potentially having the shittiest day of their life while you're pumping gas. That is being special. That is being different. That is impacting the world in a positive way. That little smile. That's all it is. That's it. Nobody's asking you to go invent the cure for cancer. No one's asking you to go invent the cure for AIDS. Nobody's asking you to end racism. They're just do the little things. The little things are what make people special. That's what makes interaction with human beings so freaking amazing, is that making someone laugh or making them smile or just making them feel appreciated without even having to say anything. And that's where people, they can't do it. And I want people to know they can. I want people to learn how, and that they can, and it's okay to smile, and it's okay to say hello to people. And it's okay to tell somebody, "Hey, don't take this the wrong way, but I think your shoes are freaking amazing." Or I'll walk up to people. My wife thinks I'm crazy sometimes. I'll be like, "Oh my goodness, sweetheart, you got to turn around. You're gorgeous. You are unbelievable. I don't know who your husband is. I don't know who your boyfriend is, but that is one lucky SOB. God bless you. Have a wonderful day." And then walk away. That's it. No commitment. There's no reciprocation. Don't need anything. And my wife is like, "You're nuts." I'm like, "I'm not nuts. I probably just made that person's day." And I made my day because I felt good about doing it. Just wish people would just be a little bit more like that. Just have a little more freaking fire, have a little more, oomph. Just put it out there, just get out there, do it. Don't be afraid. And it just comes back to, I have that comment that I say, be good, get better, be the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people have asked me what that means. I'm like, well, be good is whatever you're doing, regardless, whether you're working or relationship or your friendships or a lover or, writing a story, writing your journal, whatever you're doing, be good at it. Don't do it half-assed. Don't be sloppy. Make time to do it right the first time. Be good at it. Then you got to learn how to get better at it. And what does that mean? That means you got to learn how to become a better human being, learn how to be nicer to people, learn to have more compassion, learn to be a better journal writer, to where you're writing your true feelings down and not writing down what you think if somebody were to catch and read would be okay for them, right? And then you got to work your ass off to be the best, because the best version of you has to be better every single day. My best yesterday, it better not be my best tomorrow, because I'm not evolving. I'm not growing. I'm not changing. I'm not getting better. So it's like a 3-step process, right? But it never ends. It just never ends, because you want to be good at your best yesterday. And then maybe today I learn how to get better. And in the process of learning how to get better, my new best version comes out that day. And then you repeat, and then you repeat, and then you repeat, and then you repeat. And I can go on and on and on. And it's just a constant cycle. And before you know it, you look back a little bit to reflect. And you might have touched one person's life. You might have touched 10 million people's lives. But you touched a life. And the most important life you touched was yours. Because at some point, you're going to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, that is a bad dude right there. That is a bad chick right there. That is one awesome human being. And that's, I mean, I know I'm ranting a little bit, but that's where it's at for me, man. I've got so much passion for it that it's really what I'm trying to send. That's the message I'm trying to put out into the world. You know, it really is.
I don't think that was in any way necessary for an apology for a rant, because that was like I was like zoomed in, like tunnel vision right there. It fired me up, you know. And
Awesome.
you know, behind you, you can see that quote: "Be good, get better, be the best." And so is this logo behind you? This is like your like side hustle? Is this?
I don't believe in side hustles, man. So there's only hustle and there's rest. Because, you know, when I work with people and I mentor people, I ask them a question. I say, how many hours of sleep do you need every night to be productive during the day? And so that's different for everybody, okay? For myself, I need 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep to feel extremely energized and be very productive throughout the day. So that leaves me 19 hours in a day. Most people work a normal 9 to 5. So that's 8 hours, right? Or actually 9 hours, and you take an hour lunch break or whatever you're going to do. So let's just say it's 8 hours of productivity in an office. That leaves me 11 hours. Technically, I have enough time in the day to work 2 full-time jobs. So when people say that's my side hustle, I like to disagree with that, because you're just hustling. There's no side. You know, people are dynamic. Humans have different personas and different aspirations, and you have different passions. And so you may have a passion for, building trinkets, but you also may have a passion for art, and you also may have a passion for working on cars, and you may also have a passion for volunteering at the local Y. So if you could do all those things every day for an hour or two at a time and earn income from all of them, well, which one's the side hustle? Do you define side hustle because one pays you here and one pays you here? Or do you define side hustle because you'll dump it and drop it at the moment that the other job pays you enough to cover your side hustle? So you're either hustling or you're resting.
That's a very unique way to look at it, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, and this is, you know, I worked 2 full-time jobs for a couple of years.
And you're still alive. Look at you. And you're thriving. So it's very possible. You see what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. And so, like, you know, now, you know, I'm not employed at an actual job right now. I'm just doing my own thing. And
right, you're employed.
I used to consider this, like the podcast, as just something for fun, you know, and it was, like, it still is. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm putting a little more intention and effort into it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, that shift of transitioning from, like, you know, if you think of it as a side hustle, you're right. Like, if something else comes along or outweighs it, you're just going to give it up.
Yep.
And if you just say, I'm hustling, then that's it. End of conversation.
Right. I mean, if your neighbor came over to you right now and said, hey, Nick, I need my house painted. And you don't have to do it in one day. You can take all week to do it. And I'm going to give you $2,000 to do it. But you got to buy your own supplies. But I'm going to give you $2,000 to do it. You're going to tell them no? No, you're going to go paint the house. Right?
Yeah.
And you're going to paint it. You might paint it at 3 a.m. You might paint it at 5 a.m. You might paint it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But you're going to go paint the house. And you're going to make that $2,000. And then you're going to go back to doing whatever else you were doing. So you're just hustling. You know, side hustle is, you know, when someone tells me, oh, that's my side hustle, I don't feel a whole lot of commitment in there. I feel like, yeah, I got you. You know, I get it. you're going to make a little cash over here if it works out, if it's easy, right? If I can do it easily, it's my hustle. It'll become my hustle. But for now, it's my side hustle. So it's funny because you'll get that, and I'll tell people, well, either you're hustling or you're resting. That's it. There's no side hustle. I got people that work on my team, and one of the guys is you have to check him out. He's a very, very talented artist. He's got a company called Never Alone Apparel, and he uses that to promote mental health awareness and addiction. And he's a recovering.
I follow that page on Instagram. I had no idea that you knew.
Yeah. So he works with me on my team. We work together every single day. Lee Trimble, awesome dude, man. He's special, man. He really is. I believe in that guy a lot. He really is. And, we talked about it, and we had a little chat not too long ago, and I'm like, dude, you got to put a little more effort in what you're doing over there, because that's passionate for you. I know he loves his job. I know he likes doing what he's doing with me when we go to our normal 9 to 5, quote unquote. Right. And I know he enjoys it, and he really likes it because he likes to learn. But his art and his brand and his promotion of his brand, he has so much passion for it. And I'm constantly encouraging him to keep pushing over there. I'm like, look, you come in here, you put your 8-10 hours in, go put 8-10 hours over there, and then get yourself some rest. Right. And keep doing it. So yeah, there's no such thing for me as a side hustle. I mean, I guess I just don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
I choose not to.
It is. That's the thing. It's always a choice.
Absolutely. So no, Ground Zero is not a side hustle.
Answer the question.
Yeah. So Ground Zero is my brand for my mentoring / coaching / inspiration public speaking platform. And it's been evolving for a while now, and it's going to continue to evolve, and it will find its way into the universe and how it will be out there and what it'll do. So, but yeah, the world does require you to have an LLC every once in a while, so I had to get it set up. But so that's it. So yeah. So again, you're the first one to see this logo, man. This is it. So whoever's watching this podcast, this is the first time I put it out into the universe. So. I hope you like it, and I try to put some meaning into it. So,
yeah, it looks awesome, man. I really like it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Kicked it around for a while. You get all the positive feedback, you get all the constructive criticism, and at some point you got to stand your ground and say, you know what, this is what it's going to be. This is me. This is what I'm putting it out there. I'm exposing myself here. I'm being extremely vulnerable, but we're going to put it out there. So. So yeah, so it's been going good. Can't complain. I've got, obviously I'm on your show. I've done a couple other podcasts, and I do a webinar coming up in next week, actually. So I'll put that up on my Instagram and my Facebook so people can go check it out if they want to check it out. And then, get some bookings and do some events, and, just kind of probably put it out there and put my heart on the line a little bit, and hopefully somebody will be impacted positively, of course.
I'm sure they will be.
That's the idea.
Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for coming on here and talking. And this was, again, an amazing conversation. The first time we talked, I wasn't expecting it to be that in depth, and it just happened. And I was like, oh man, we need to recreate this somehow on the podcast.
Oh,
the world needs to hear.
It's easy. Yeah, but it's easy when you have two people that are on a very similar level. Or on parallel paths, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really easy to have those conversations, and I'm hoping that your audience will listen to this, and then they'll want to spend more time with you and interact with you more, because I think you're a special person. I think you have an awesome thing going. I think that people should hear your story. And I think that you have a lot to offer. And I think, that our last conversation was a lot more personal than this one. So, but I think you're great, man. And I think you got to keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me on your show, man. It's super, super humbling. I don't think you know how humbled I am by the fact that you invited me to come on your show. So just thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, man. It was my pleasure. All right, my friends, signing out. Until next time.